Hey guys, don't usually do this, but just a quick disclaimer for this episode about Elden Ring. We actually recorded this episode a little less than a month after the game came out, and as of the time of publishing, it's been about 3 months. So we just wanted to take a quick second to acknowledge that we do realize the culture and the public discourse around the game has shifted drastically in the last few months. And if we were to record it now, we might use a few different vocabulary words, but otherwise our opinions are essentially the same and we stick by what we say. So otherwise, yeah, it's a great episode. Hope you enjoy it.
This is really the Dark Souls of podcasting. Hello, friends, and welcome to another action-packed episode of the NintenGems podcast, the podcast where we talk about Nintendo games, both new and old. My name is Connor, and today I am joined by my ever-eternally lovely co-host,
Brayden.
That
Why,
is
hello, friends.
Hello, friend.
What's up?
Nothing much. Do you remember a little bit ago when we were talking about, gosh, I guess it was probably Dark Souls?
Oh, wow. In that GameCube game.
Is that different? Is that a different game?
Different
Not Dark
game,
Souls?
but made by FromSoftware.
You might have detected a slight misnomer in the intro there, when this is a podcast talking about Nintendo games, both new and old.
We don't like Nintendo anymore.
Ew.
We are Big Kid Games now.
The kids have left the room. It's time to talk adult stuff.
We like blood and cuss words.
Yeah, different from Dark Souls.
Yeah.
Now it's time to go to Non-tendo land.
That's right. All jokes aside, we are here to talk about Elden Ring. Like, it's a pretty big deal. We're in part 2 of our FromSoftware special here, and I'm kind of assuming that you've listened to part 1 at this point. If you haven't, I would highly recommend you do listen to that. It's a great episode in and of itself, but it's also a great lead up into this episode about Elden Ring. And so,
We're going to assume at this point that you have a prerequisite knowledge of Dark Souls.
Sure. That's, yes.
Because it's almost a prerequisite for going into this game, Elden Ring. It's such a massive, even outside, it's a massive game in itself. It's a huge game.
Culturally and
internally.
Like
the game itself is just a huge game. Mm-hmm. Lengthwise, breadthwise, and depthwise. But it's also culturally, it's made a huge splash.
Yes.
And it's hard to discuss the game outside of the context that it's kind of provided through socially, culturally, within the gaming sphere at this contemporary present moment. But that's kind of what I want to do, is acknowledge it.
Mm-hmm.
We'll talk about Elden Ring and what it means right now in this moment. But I really want to tap into what it is in a vacuum at some point. I feel like that's what this analysis is really going to necessitate.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
And can you define that vacuum? Can you give me a rule set to this vacuum?
I want to define how good of a game Elden Ring really is.
Okay.
Like, divorced from all of the 10 out of 10s, all of the hype, all of the information that's like externally surrounds it, and possibly even divorced from like its association with the Dark Souls series.
Yeah.
And in relation, but also compared into relation with like what else it directly relates to design and philosophy wise, because it's more than just Dark Souls.
Yeah.
There's so much.
Yeah.
To acknowledge it for a second, there's so much dialogue about how this is Dark Souls 4. Truly.
Okay. Interesting. Yes.
How this carries the mantle of the Dark Souls series more than Sekiro or Bloodborne or Demon's Souls.
I believe that. Yes, it is more the natural spiritual successor.
But is that true? That's what I want to discuss. Eventually.
Okay.
After, getting
some groundwork.
Yeah, for sure. Laying some foundation for certain.
We both picked it up release day.
Yes.
Which is over a month now.
At this point, yeah.
Pretty wild to say. I guess my game counter says I'm at 150 hours. I have admitted it's probably more like 130 with some idle time, and yeah, where are you at?
I'm at almost 100 hours.
Okay.
I just haven't had a ton of like large consecutive playing sessions.
Mm-hmm.
I'm generally, broadly, again, this is a huge game and progress is not strictly linear, so to speak.
Yeah, for sure. By my understanding, it is quite convoluted, in fact, like if you want it to be.
Certainly. I mean, just to echo back a little bit to the Dark Souls episode, like, there's one final boss, there's a conclusion. Then there's different funnels therein in the progression they're in, but like some of those funnels are just completely borderless clouds, whatever that means. But as far as like the main progression, you are further than me.
Yes.
You have more hours, which is kind of shocking because we kind of just established that you have a little less, marginally less exposure to the whole Souls FromSoftware series, the quote-unquote FromSoftware game.
Yes.
Than me.
Yes, and just a quick recap in case you didn't listen. I played Dark Souls 1, did not beat it. Played Dark Souls 3, did not beat it. Sekiro is one of my favorite games of all time. I think it's a masterpiece. And so yes, now I'm into Elden Ring. Obviously, it has sucked my soul. My wife hates me. I play it just about every night. And it's funny you say you haven't had good chunks of time because I won't play it if I can't commit at least 2 hours.
Exactly.
I don't think it's worth it.
It feels like such a demanding game.
Mm-hmm.
Even more than something like the original Dark Souls.
You mentioned the vastness of the world, and I mean, that alone, genuinely don't think I'm exaggerating when I say I can spend 2 hours perhaps exploring one corner of the continent that I've just unlocked, and perhaps one catacomb dungeon. And that's my playthrough. I probably realistically won't even beat that dungeon, that catacomb. You know what I mean? I will have to end my play if I'm on a 2-hour play cycle. Like, I won't beat that dungeon. I'll get stuck at the boss, I'll pick it up the next play cycle, then I'll beat that boss.
And that dungeon, that catacomb, in that region that you described, that
Mm-hmm.
new region that you've explored.
Region, thank you. I said continent. Region is much more appropriate.
Whichever. Well, I know what you mean.
Uh-huh.
That, like,
yeah,
portion of the map, region of the map. That catacomb of that region is probably like 3% of the region.
Of the region.
Of the region.
Thank you, yes.
Of the dozen or so regions of the game.
Yeah.
And that's
all just as dense as the rest of them.
The breadth of this game is pretty unbelievable. Let's step further back.
Okay.
FromSoftware.
Yeah.
We started with Lost Kingdoms.
Yeah.
Gothic, fantasy, card-based, what have you.
Overworld map. You drop into a level. It's a 20-minute level.
And then within that level, you further drop into battle encounters with enemies.
Yeah.
Sectioned off.
Yeah.
Battles are separate from the exploring, the dungeon crawling, as it were.
Yeah.
The dungeon crawling is separate from the overworld map, where you select the dungeons.
Mm-hmm.
Dark Souls is, for lack of a better term, Metroidvania style. It's a quote-unquote open world. You can't go anywhere at the outset. There's not the possibility of that necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
There are certain particular linear points of progression, but there's a conventional path, and then there's ways that you could relatively easily miss the conventional path and go about those same main goals in a different way, in a different order.
this open world is interconnected in
so interconnected,
vast, surprising ways.
Yes, exactly. And then following that, Dark Souls 2 and Dark Souls 3, varying evolutions on that world design. Bloodborne kind of shares Dark Souls 1, Sekiro, pretty linear.
Mm-hmm.
Elden Ring, the concept is to take that FromSoftware game that famously, legendarily interconnected, tight world,
Mm-hmm.
the Metroidvania style progression, where it's open world. The Metroid style thing is that it's like rooms, it's corridors, it's paths, but they're all interconnected.
Yeah.
Open world doesn't mean it's like an open field. It means that field is like completely dissected into paths.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what Dark Souls and the trilogy and the spin-offs, as it were, that's how they're categorized.
Sure.
Elden Ring seeks to make it an open field. Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild style. Skyrim style.
Yeah.
Where the entire world is seamless. There's no loading screens.
The closest thing to some area transitions will be like the border on a map that you see. You know what I mean? Otherwise you won't know like you've entered a new area. You know,
you can make your way across the entire game world map without hitting a load screen.
Mm-hmm.
You can make your way into any dungeon.
Yeah.
All the way through any dungeon to any boss without any load screen. The world is seamless. Which, I mean, honestly, I'm kind of describing Dark Souls even.
You know what? I think we need to pause. Because, actually, neither of us have beaten it. I am farther than you. But, let's get full disclosure here. You know what I mean? I think that's fair. And so, like, we're probably gonna be, like, saying some spoilery stuff. But by the same token, neither of us have beaten it. I'm pretty far. I will beat the game within a week, I imagine. You probably too, if you get some good playtime in.
Ugh.
Oh no, not at the rate you're. I'm pretty sluggish, but you're going, which is
I would like
the way to play it.
I would like to
you're
think
playing slow.
I am. The reasons are threefold. Part of it is that I definitely comb through everything to make sure I'm not missing anything, because I know the FromSoftware thing.
Yeah, you kind of know the model. You know how they like to hide things a little bit.
And I'm certainly missing things. And I need to keep playing and going back. Part of it is that, like I mentioned in the previous episode, I'm just still not great at them inherently.
Okay.
Even though I enjoy this kind of game immensely, it's my kind of game, this kind of challenging everything thing.
That's a healthy acknowledgement.
Yeah, functionally, I'm not great at them still. Even though I enjoy them, even though I have extensive experience. And Elden, and we'll get into it, Elden Ring is distinct in that, like, with each consecutive FromSoftware game, they keep figuring out what players are figuring out and circumventing it.
Right.
Elden Ring bosses are kind of unfair. They're crossing that border. Am I wrong? Anyway.
Hold on. Yes. Slow down.
Yes. And the third reason, that just like I'm generally don't have that much time to, or haven't had as much time.
Yeah.
Relatively.
The most obvious and real life answer of them all.
But I mean, I also just like don't know for certain, like we talked about a certain like extensive quest line. You might have even done more than me. I would like to think I'm combing through everything, but like maybe I'm just slow. I don't know.
Sure. No, I imagine you probably can navigate most, I use the word dungeon loosely, but most areas just more naturally than I do, just having more experience with the series. I am trying to tap into my Sekiro recollections and just vaguely what I know of FromSoftware and what kind of tricks they like to pull. But I feel like you perhaps naturally clear an area a bit faster than I do. I think you are just being more thorough.
Maybe.
I'll just acknowledge that I've skipped bosses before. Like I've put a marker down and I've been like, I'll come back to you, you know. So I don't know. We can save that for the boss discussion.
Yes.
If you want, but
Yes. I think that's intentional
uh-huh.
for several bosses because same.
Sure.
There are bosses that I haven't beaten because they're clearly I'm under-leveled for.
Yeah.
That's evident to me. But yeah, maybe, I don't know, I might be more thorough. Truly what just baffles me is anybody that's cleared the game, that has beaten the game in like 70 hours. Either they're just natural gods at video games, or they've just missed so much on their first time through.
Okay, I meant to ask you this in the Dark Souls episode. Naturally. So at this point, if just playing for fun, you know what I mean? I don't know, not being 100% thorough, how many hours would it take you to clear Dark Souls?
Now?
Yeah.
Sheesh. Less than 30.
Okay. And if I were to go back and play Dark Souls, how many hours do you think it would take me? 60? 80? 40?
How long did it take you to beat Sekiro?
100?
Yeah.
It'd take me
Maybe
100 on
around-
Dark Souls?
Maybe, yeah.
Okay, and that's great.
I don't know. That's a rough estimate.
You know that, and that's fine. You know what I mean? I meant to ask you that. How long of a game Dark Souls truly is for someone who knows what's coming and perhaps knows how to navigate it more than an unsuspecting victim?
I mean, speedruns of Dark Souls are like sub 5 hours are
Yeah.
speedy.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, as far as like knowing what's coming, you know what I mean?
And it's bare bones play. I mean,
Sure.
shortcuts and whatever.
I mean, I don't really go for speed records. I'm just trying to enjoy it. If I'm playing Dark Souls again, I'm trying like a build or something that I haven't done before.
Yeah.
So I'm taking my time with it a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
trying to enjoy it for what it is. I'm not necessarily trying to get through it as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, that's
cool.
cool.
I've always found myself to be like somehow an outlier of all. I mean, especially FromSoftware games, like the hour count.
Mm-hmm.
Like my experience,
and that's not a good.
varies.
Yeah, that's never a really good way to measure enjoyment at all,
Sure.
or value, whatever. But I do think it can translate kind of to Elden Ring and the people who claim to have. They don't claim. I'm sure they did beat it in 50, 60, 70 hours, but I'm sure they missed so much of the game. Like they only played core quest lines or something.
Or I
Can
mean,
you
like
be that good at the FromSoftware formula and learn bosses that quickly?
right, blindly, I think Elden Ring is the most challenging FromSoftware game. I can't imagine someone just like you wouldn't if you were playing this game for the first time blind and you beat it in 70 hours, you would just have to not stop moving.
Yeah.
You would have to miss so much detail in the game, I guess. And that's not to, like, I feel like...
But you'd have to know where you're going, too.
Right.
You would have to be playing with a guide.
I try to refrain from making judgment calls like that. Only because, like, I feel like saying that is like, you didn't play it right. Making any sort of judgment like this, like, you didn't play the game the way it should have been played.
Sure,
like,
yeah, gatekeeping is never cool.
Right, and like, if somebody beat it in 70 hours, I mean, from my own personal experience, I can't imagine how that's possible, but maybe they did see everything, and maybe they're just, like, I don't know, better at the game than me or something, have, like, more natural skill, latent skill towards this kind of, the kind of challenges it poses.
Yeah.
Maybe that's all it is. You know?
Mm-hmm.
And simultaneously, with Elden Ring, like, in particular, I feel like more than any other FromSoftware game, just encourages any solution. Like, whatever it takes to win.
All right.
Summoning, grinding, over-leveling,
Mm-hmm.
coming back to a boss later when you're over-leveled, coming back to a boss after you, like, find the right kind of spirit summon, or Ash of War, or weapon, you know, like, the game is so open and varied and wide that, yeah, just, like, ignoring a boss and doing anything else in the entire game world for any amount of time will improve you in some way to come back to the boss later and be better at it.
Sure. I want to feel like an English teacher for a second. And just, listener, remember the theme wide. I feel like that's just going to reoccur. Wide and vast. So yeah, that was my English lesson, or whatever.
So what's Elden Ring? Action RPG?
Whew,
Dark Souls 4?
No. So I'm, maybe because I was never a Dark Souls fan, necessarily, but I'm pretty on board with separating it from Dark Souls. You know what I mean? Spiritual, yes, and if they want to bridge the gap with some kind of story beat in Elden Ring DLC/2, I'm cool with that, but in my mind, I feel cool because I like Elden Ring, not because I like Dark Souls. You know what I mean?
Sure. I mean, I think
it feels
so.
like a new thing.
It's hard for me to separate from that.
It feels like a different thing. IMO.
I think that the connecting thread is too strong to ignore. But again, I'm simply it's my experience.
And
it's more ingrained in me.
And I am being a jerk in not acknowledging that. You know what I mean? Of course, Dark Souls is 100% the foundation. And so, like, you know, to not acknowledge that is just incorrect. But it feels like a reboot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a new... It feels like a new franchise.
It is. I mean, literally it is. But
with the threat of connection.
I'm with you completely. Mm-hmm. I can't separate it simply because that's, like, personally where my foundation is.
Yes.
And I also feel like broadly, contextually, you can't separate it because this is the FromSoftware game, as we've established. Even since Demon's Souls, it's like this kind of action RPG, brutally difficult, currency, level up, stats, yada yada, everything about it. Mm-hmm. But you are absolutely correct in that this is a new beginning. Mm-hmm. This is a new starting point. Yeah. If one is approaching this line of games from zero, they would be better off starting with Elden Ring than, say, Dark Souls 3. Mm-hmm. You know? Absolutely. As much as I think Dark Souls 3 is, like, of the Dark Souls trilogy, in those 3 games in a vacuum, Dark Souls 3 is the most mechanically advanced. It feels the best to play, and is the easiest and most accessible purely mechanically to drop into. They shouldn't, for the sake of the Dark Souls trilogy. Elden Ring is a new thing. It's its own thing. It should be taken as it is. You're right. Cool. Okay. To a degree, you know. Yeah. All of what I'd said being. Yes. It just depends on. I mean, it almost purely depends back on whatever your personal experience is, and for you, that's not a heavy investment in Dark Souls. Yeah. For me, it is. Of course. For me, it's to everything. There's bits and pieces of Bloodborne and Sekiro in there, obviously. But wait, what was your question? You asked what is Elden Ring, and that's probably true. I think I went off on a weird. We probably both English lesson or something about themes. Maybe we probably both did. What is Elden Ring, though? So it just adds on to what we talked about in the previous episode. But some guy, he said it was like Dark Souls, Zelda, and Monster Hunter had a baby, and I was like, yeah, that's true. And so, well, you know, whatever. It's an open world RPG. You create your character, you pick a class, you can be anywhere from vagrant nomad with no weapon, just bare fists, to brute chieftain with gravity hammer, and to a small little imp man who only uses crossbows and fireballs. Yes. This is an example that I gave to some friends pre-release. Okay. This is why it's important that we did Dark Souls and we're doing the whole FromSoftware framework.
Okay.
From work, if you will.
Ooh, from work.
Demon Souls into Dark Souls 2. Now, do you know what came out after Dark Souls 2? Scholar of the First Sin.
Is that Bloodborne?
Bloodborne. Bloodborne came out before Dark Souls 3. Which is interesting.
That is weird.
Because Bloodborne is different. Bloodborne is less about RPG and more about action. Bloodborne is fast-paced. It juxtaposed to the first 2 Dark Souls that came before it. You can't upgrade your armor. You can there's like maybe a dozen different weapons total.
Wow, okay.
And like half a dozen sub-weapons.
Sure.
And that's it. And you can upgrade them, and there are different stats that you upgrade.
Mm-hmm.
You can't upgrade your armor. Less heavy on role-playing elements. Or rather like stats and stuff. Stat building.
Right.
And more emphasis on like the moment-to-moment action.
Combat, action.
Yeah. Dark Souls 3 comes out. Little more like that. The combat itself, like the visceral feel of the combat is polished. It's got like the Bloodborne feel to it.
Okay, yeah.
Reactivity. Yeah. But it keeps the Dark Souls RPG elements.
Uh-huh.
Dark Souls 3, after that, is Sekiro.
Yes.
And that's following the Bloodborne branch.
Absolutely.
Because Sekiro is an action game. It's not RPG at all, yeah?
Right.
It's like a pure action, reflex. Mm-hmm. If anything, that's the get good game. Is like, you can't level your stats.
Right.
You can't grind in Sekiro. You gotta have the boss's patterns down pat, or you are simply not beating it. Mm-hmm. You have to get good at the game.
Yes.
Elden Ring is less about if the only way to conquer this is if you're good at this, and more so, there are infinite ways around this problem. Here's a boss that you can't beat. Here are a million solutions to how you can beat this boss.
Yep. You
can not try to. You can grind whatever level you're in. You can go anywhere in the map and find this weapon that has strength scaling. This weapon that has dexterity scaling. This weapon that has this item in this corner of the world that has like this resistance to the thing that the boss does. This item at this opposite corner of the world that you can go find that excels at this damage that's good against this boss. You can just grind some levels. You can try a different boss.
Use that this item. Essential to,
yeah.
Summon a friend.
Exactly. Summon help. Find a new summon.
Uh-huh.
You know? Upgrade your summons.
We've got to talk about summons. We'll get there.
Yes. We'll get to a lot of things.
Uh-huh.
But yes, instead of what refined the purely action elements of the Dark Souls series to where it was so action oriented, and what's important to note too about Sekiro, no multiplayer elements, single player only. So action focused that like truly, yeah, if you can't get this tough as nails, brutal boss's pattern down, you're really screwed.
Yeah.
There's no other way around it. Elden Ring oftentimes feels like that. Because, to me, the bosses are unforgiving. They are punishing. They have more dastardly attack patterns than ever in the entire series, but like we're saying, with this deviation to the opposite kind of RPG, make your own adventure realm instead of the purely action, there are just more solutions.
Sure.
You don't have to be pounded into the ground over and over and over. You can do anything else.
So, okay, I may have lied. Let's try to get into summons. Kind of just assuming you understand how multiplayer generally works and you can summon friends for bosses. In the previous games, like that's a normal thing in Dark Souls.
Dark Souls 1 had the humanity thing, just to recap.
Yeah.
But in Dark Souls 2 and 3, it worked a little different for each of them. In Elden Ring, it's a little similar in that for the actual multiplayer element, you have to opt into it. You have to use a consumable item similar to the humanity that makes summon signs appear, friendly summon signs appear, and also adversarial summon signs appear, and also invaders,
Right.
possibly.
But also in Elden Ring are these summon ashes, which I believe are new to the series.
Yes, they're a new whole like mechanic, basically. In the past, in the Dark Souls series, all you could do was summon other players, and in very particular circumstances, summon NPCs, non-player characters, and those are usually quest related, like you complete a character's quest, and then you can summon them for a particular boss fight. But now, in Elden Ring, you collect summons as like items,
Right.
as loot. You can
You clear a tomb or something like that, and your reward. You find ashes.
Yeah, and they're, what are they called? Spirit ashes?
I think that's right. Yeah,
a spirit ash of a particular character or creature that you can summon at will whenever you want.
Or might I say, I think it's pretty cool, like a group of characters.
Yes.
Like some of them are like groups of soldiers, or like a pack of wolves.
Some may be one big buff Minotaur dude. Some may be like a pack of 5 wolves.
Love that guy, by the way.
The Minotaur?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's sick. Some, the most famous maybe is this singular jellyfish.
Okay, yeah.
You use jellyfish a lot? I still do.
I haven't. That's not who I thought you were going to say is the most famous.
Well, the Mimic.
Yeah. Mimic Tear, right?
Mimic Tear, because, yeah.
It's not, like, I'm always afraid it's going to be Mimic Tear, but I couldn't make that work in my brain.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Tear.
Yeah.
But, yeah, they're essentially, instead of things to be summoned being exclusively relegated to specific summon spots in the game world, now you can summon entities to fight for you at basically almost any point at will, at the consumption of your mana bar, your magic bar, like your magic meter. I think maybe where you're going with this, but what I see as the ultimate point of it is to just kind of like help, I don't know, curb that difficulty spike, especially for those playing single player, but also, I mean, to anyone who's looking for like some extra help for a boss or a particular challenge. It just makes it easier, or like, I don't know. What are you saying?
I don't know. That's close, but I see it as more of like the way you put it, it phrases it more of like a chicken and an egg thing. I think they came up with the idea of these spirit ashes. To my understanding, there's like 60 of them or something. And they programmed all of these to be able to aid you. And you know what I mean? Custom movesets. Some of them are original NPCs and some of them are just recreations of enemies that you fight and stuff. But they programmed all of these. I think, in my opinion, they made the bosses to encourage the use of summons regardless. So you cannot summon both spirit ashes and a real player character. You have to choose one or the other. But regardless, you're giving me a face. So so here's the thing. You can summon spirit ashes and an NPC quest character, or you can summon a real player character and an NPC quest character. But you can't add a spirit ash if you have activated
a human actual player.
A furled finger.
Yes.
You know.
Okay.
Regardless, though, in my opinion, I think the logical conclusion is they are encouraging you to play cooperatively, whether it's with an NPC or a real human, to beat these quote-unquote more difficult bosses.
I agree. That's kind of what I was getting at with, like, when saying, like, those, especially playing single player.
Sure.
Like, there's the extra help, makes it, easier. Isn't really what I meant.
Yeah,
but what you described is what I meant.
Yeah,
like,
I'm totally just adding on. I hear you.
Like, I mean it when I say these bosses are more aggressive, their attack patterns are more unforgiving, more punishing than any Dark Souls game, and comparative to, like, Sekiro. But, like you say, there are, and I mean, like, I think this is a broad design philosophy for the whole game, Like, there are just, like, so many contingencies in place to help you overcome that. The game is viscerally more difficult. If you try to handle a challenge head-on solo, odds are it might be too much for you by yourself. But there are spirit ashes, there are NPC summons, there are player summons that also help plenty. And again, if all else fails, you can do anything else.
Right.
You can go try anything else, literally anything else
Yeah.
in the entire game.
Walk the other direction.
Yeah. But yeah, I ultimately with what you're saying, I agree.
The spirit ashes feel so... I mean, they are a reward in, I don't know, a majority of the, like, optional caves and things that
Dungeons
you'll
and stuff?
that you'll explore. And so, like,
I agree.
you know, it seems so encouraged. And so many of the bosses that I fought, I don't think I could have gotten through if I didn't have a distraction at least some point. For them to turn around, let me hit their back for 2 seconds. You know what I mean?
Sounds like you aren't getting good enough.
You
have to get good.
Friggin' am not good enough. I posted a meme on our Instagram a little while, and the soy jack dudes, and one of them's like, "No, you can't do that." And then it's the Chad who's like, "Ha, ding ding," with all the little summons behind him. Yeah, I'm him. I'm Chad. Yeah. Ding ding, motherfucker.
I am that's again. The bosses are way more aggressive with their attack patterns, but that's why, like, with that comes ways to circumvent that, to cheese them back. The attack patterns are unforgiving and punishing, but you have ways to be unfair to them back, to cheese them back.
What kind of weapons are you using?
I am using... kind of started with, like, sword and board, sword and shield, but then ended up going more generally strength build. So I'm doing kind of great sword and shield, and also kind of like colossal sword, like two-handing, like an ultra great sword.
And so with that, you take damage when you block, or do you just go for the dodge? If you're two-handing a great sword, you know?
It depends on the boss.
But I mean, do you take damage if you block?
When you're blocking when you are two-handing a great sword and you block with that, yes, you are taking damage.
I don't know if I don't know if there's anything you can two-hand besides a shield that won't prevent damage.
Sure.
That was more of a dumb question.
Generally, the character that I'm doing right now, in my right hand, I've got a great sword, the Lordsworn's great sword, with a bleed effect.
Nice.
And I also I switch that with the great sword, which is ironically not a great sword, it's a colossal sword.
Okay.
But it has one of the best strength scaling in the game. Mm-hmm. That's generally what my stats are going for. What's its grade? Like, I think strength? A right now.
Really?
Yeah. So strength is my main stat, and like vitality and endurance are close behind. That's pretty much all I'm going for.
Cool.
And a shield whenever I'm using the bleed sword, the Lordsworn great sword. And I switch between those depending on the enemy.
Dope.
What you got?
Fun. I also started Sword and Board for a while, but then after you beat the first major boss, Godric, you get his remembrance, and there's this cool... So, like, when you beat bosses, you can get weapons kind of based on their skill set or their actual weapon. And so for a while, I was using, like, this fist thing based on the dragon that he uses on his arm.
Oh, that's
pretty, it was a lot of fun. And actually right now, I'm using dual whips. I'm using Hoslow's pedal whips. Both have bleed and cold effects, and they're shredding up pretty good.
Power stance, bro.
I don't know what that means, but okay.
Do you have a whip in your right and left hand?
Yeah.
When you press L1, does it do like a double attack?
Yes.
That's power stancing, bro.
Yes.
That's Dark Souls 2!
Dude, it shreds.
Yeah,
pretty good.
Literally.
I mean, Well, and so, like, I mean, I get caught in pretty long attack animations from time to time,
No
and,
doubt.
like...
That's such an interesting build to go for still your first playthrough.
I'm having a blast. And actually, the boss that I'm on, I have rotated out my left-hand whip with a shield. I found the need to block a little bit.
Whips ain't gonna be so good against strong armor. You know that, right, baby?
Sorry?
Whips ain't gonna be so good against
yeah,
hard armor.
Well, that's where my bleeding cold come in.
Okay, if you say so.
Yeah, and well, so as the game's progressing, I'm starting to regret decisions, but I really am having fun with them.
Sure, yeah.
So,
man, this openness,
mm-hmm.
this sheer breadth, this sheer potential variable of randomness for every player's first playthrough as they get to understand the game. Is it well designed? Is it good game design to do that? To make it so because your build is going to be obsolete for something.
Absolutely. I don't know how seriously I mean this, but I actually think this is one of those games that we're all going to want to have played again for the first time.
Oh, hands down.
And that's true for FromSoftware backlog, of course. But like you said, the breadth is so massive, and the knowledge of where something is that you might need absolutely spoils any challenge that you might have coming up. I absolutely think the surprise... So I can say with pretty full honesty that, like, I have used limited guidance through my experience. I think I've looked for the location of a couple NPCs, and I've reddited, like, a handful of hard bosses. I just want to vent with a handful of people, see what they did. But you know what I mean? Like, I am really trying not to spoil too much. If I knew that I wanted a whip and I knew where to get that whip, it'd be a different game. Even the fact that I've never used a sorcery, but I'll know where to get sorceries on my second playthrough, will take away from the value of sorcery. In my weird, twisted, I'm not sure if I'm correct opinion.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Do you think that's a good design or not?
Immaculate game design with absolute zero replayability.
Wow.
I think it's all in the mystery, baby.
All of it?
That's what I'm addicted to.
All of it?
That's
because
the
purpose, like, I mean, the big draw of, like, Dark Souls replay runs is trying a new build. I mean, kind of, especially when you know where the things that you want to make your build work are. You make a build around a certain weapon, you know? Mm-hmm. And that's even more possible in Elden Ring when you can, from the word go grab the weapon that you know you want for the build. Even more so than Dark Souls, you know?
Mm-hmm.
You can ride your horse all the way to, Volcano Manor from the word go and grab whatever weapon out of whatever random dungeon you know you want, or Ash of War or spell or what have you, and start upgrading your character towards that goal. That knowing where everything is obviously
arguably the other side of the replayability coin.
Yes, precisely. It is obviously a different play experience, and something, I mean, I kind of ended up circumventing, but really ended up meaning about Dark Souls is that there is nothing like playing a FromSoftware game at launch when the game's wiki is blank. Nobody knows what's going on. Nobody knows where anything is or what anything does, what any of the boss's ailments are or advantages are. Like, there's nothing like playing Dark
Pure-
Souls.
Pure public panic.
Exactly. You're like, that's going through it like there's no choice other than to go through it blind.
Yeah.
As everyone is figuring it out at the same time. So you're absolutely right. There's nothing that's going to replace the first week of Elden Ring coming out.
Yeah.
And here we are a month out, and people have been playing it like over and over and over. People have like perfected speed runs already, you know? We're already past it. Past the point of willing blindness, as it were.
Yeah.
You can't avoid the context, practically. But I also think that's something, as we evaluate and analyze the game's quality of design, however you can quantify that exactly, I think that's something that only comes with time. Because it's the same as Dark Souls. When in 2012, a year after Dark Souls came out, it would not be Joystick's #1 game of all history.
Right.
It takes historical context and like influence and you know, things that are bigger than what the game is.
Yeah.
And I think, all that being said, I think we're still in the honeymoon phase with Elden Ring.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think it's kind of the opposite, in that what I predict is that time is going to bring Elden Ring down a peg.
I believe that too.
That's something that I fear. That's something that, as a FromSoftware adorer and understander and analyzer, a critic, but also their biggest fan, it's something that you have to just honestly confront and like be transparent with your love-hate relationship with. And there are times that I personally find myself averse to a lot of open world games, in that I just get fatigue. Even Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
From reused assets. The same Metal Gear Solid 5, the same enemy base, the same enemies, the same boss, copy and pasted. You see the same landmarks, just like a handful of times across the world, and you're like, oh, okay, I'm just repeating the steps. The breadth becomes trivial.
Sure.
When it comes to something like Dark Souls 1, where, sure, there's a handful of repeated bosses. Sure. It had rushed development. Sue them. But it's such a tighter experience.
Right.
Like you're alluding with Sekiro earlier, that there's less room for error. But I find myself, with Elden Ring, there was a pretty sizable spell where I just felt that open world fatigue, where I don't like following the main story in open world games, because I don't want to miss shit. So I try to do everything, but in Elden Ring, when I'm doing everything, I'm seeing a lot of the same thing over and over. And for rewards that aren't valuable to me, for spells and incantations and weapons that require stats that I'm not dumping into, which is just kind of how it is.
Yeah.
Is that bad game design? Is that good game design?
Right.
I think it's intentional. You know, that's just how it is. And some of it is
how it has to be.
Maybe.
For decent balance or whatever.
I don't know. Because some of it is immaculately designed. Some of it is so perfect and so brilliant. It's Dark Souls 1 all over again. It's intelligent. It's so smart. Some of it is just like, you didn't have to make a whole other catacomb with the same enemies, a slightly different layout, and a repeated watchdog boss fight just to have an occasion to give me the spell. Just put it in a treasure chest. I don't care.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. I could do without this dungeon. Waste of time. I've seen everything in this dungeon already.
I'll buy it from the wench.
Yeah. It's fine. Don't worry about it. And it's also, calling back to Dark Souls 1 again, the intelligent design of a lot of the Dark Souls games, that enriching lore is where you're finding all these items. who's carrying this particular weapon and who teaches you this particular spell?
Sure.
What enemy is dropping this item in this area and why? And that's part of the world building.
Mm-hmm.
The rats in the sewer they drop humanity as an item because they're eating humans, and that's a byproduct.
Sure.
That's in the lore.
Uh-huh. That's awesome.
It's all intentional.
Yeah.
It's all part of the world, because it's a tighter world, that's the design. And Elden Ring, I don't know why there are a dozen watchdogs all over the whole world.
Yeah.
And some of them have spirit ashes, some of them are guarding spells.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the mariners are about.
There's multiple.
There's multiple night like the nighttime cavalries.
And night birds.
And the death birds.
Death birds, sorry, yeah.
You know, they're...
Oh, tree sentinels. Which would make a little more sense with each minor Erd tree, I guess.
Kinda, but they're just in... And then there's the grafted scions.
Mm-hmm.
There's the same soldiers everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there comes a point in like the design document process, the blueprint process, where it's like, is this too wide? Is there too much breadth?
Do we have enough content to fill it? Is that even the argument, or just
there's
point blank too much breadth?
I think it's not the content. It's not the worthwhile content dotted around.
Mm-hmm.
It's the space between it.
Sure.
It needs to be tightened.
Mm-hmm.
It's cool that Ash of War, or that spell, or that weapon, none of which are useful to me. It's cool that they're in the game for particular character builds, but the fact that it takes so much time to get to them, to get to that reward that might not be for me, or there's so much space between them, there's just so much friction in the way that I feel like feels sloppier.
Huh. That's so interesting.
And I feel like that's what's going to take time, and for the hype to die down, for people to like get this bird's eye view of the whole blueprint of the game to understand.
Well, that's a good lead into what I was going to say, is like, I do feel like that's a more veteran perspective to have, perhaps.
Okay.
I am perhaps a little blinded by the newness and shininess, and you know what I mean, just like we've said, Sekiro is not a SoulsBorne tried and true. It's much more action and streamlined, and so this is my first top to bottom experience with a SoulsBorne, you know what I mean, and the mystery it provides, you know, the allure of the dark and grim, and
the mystery.
What's coming next?
What
the
are you
heck
missing?
is
What's
going
next?
on?
How much longer does it go? How much deeper does it go?
Yes.
The mystery is
and so I'm nothing short of addicted. My wife hates me, dude.
I'm sorry, man.
It's okay, but I got the TV, and that's all that matters.
Man, you're lucky you live with one person. I live with 3 other people, and that's the problem.
Yeah.
I haven't played in a week.
Yep.
Your perspective is valuable, too.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I have more experience doesn't mean my perspective is more valuable than yours.
Yeah.
But I want to say, and I'm gonna try to bring it full circle, not as a conclusion. But I think we need to go even further. I think Elden Ring can be refined and streamlined even more in the way that they want to. Elden Ring is still, when people call Elden Ring a culmination of all of the design philosophies that FromSoftware has ever conceived of, I know what they mean. But it's still flawed, and it can still be improved.
Sure.
So can Sekiro, for that matter. Sure. It's not like the be-all, end-all of action games. It's it's damn near polished and thought out to the nth degree, but it could still be tighter, you know? And I think that's true for Elden Ring. I only feel that because veer more into Non-tendo, I've played all of the From games. Dark Souls 1, Dark Souls 2, then Bloodborne came out, then Dark Souls 3 came out, and then Sekiro came out. And you can see this kind of evolution, this connecting thread.
Mm-hmm.
I played Bloodborne after I played Sekiro. Which is a little confusing.
Yeah. Backwards chronologically.
Yes, exactly. And to me, playing Bloodborne after Sekiro, Bloodborne feels more unfocused.
Okay.
Sekiro being this ultimate streamlining, this like just eliminating any hint of RPG.
Yeah.
In the way that Bloodborne stripped Dark Souls of a lot of its RPG elements to be more action focused. But it was still like there was still enough variety, enough variables. There were different weapons and they could all be upgraded, and there were stats that you could upgrade versus Sekiro where it's just like you have one weapon the entire game.
Yeah.
RPG elements are very limited. It's mostly about like the different like fun tools you have.
Right. Yeah. What kind of
rather than like what like lane you're speccing into. I think and so I can see with Bloodborne at the time why it got so popular, why it's people's favorite. But I can also see why how Sekiro improved it retroactively. I think all that to say, I think Elden Ring can and will be improved by FromSoftware someday in the future. The concept that it's going for.
Okay.
This culmination.
It's not a patch. It's not a DLC. It's a next iteration, probably.
It is
an even further reimagining of Elden Ring.
I think so. I think it is liable to be surpassed someday. I would dare compare Dark Souls to Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion and Elden Ring to Elder Scrolls 5 Skyrim.
Sure.
In that they're very similar games. The latter improves upon a lot of things of the former, but ultimately there's plenty of ground, plenty of reason to prefer the former. And I prefer Oblivion to Skyrim. Personally.
Lovely.
Because that's where I started, and also I think there's just plenty of personal preference things.
Yes.
Things that aren't flaws or upgrades, things that are like I prefer the setting of I prefer the setting of Cyrodiil Cyrodiil to Skyrim aesthetically, personally, and that's just me. Elden Ring is amazing. It's a feat. It's a new benchmark. It's a high watermark for game design in many ways, but it's far from the ceiling.
Okay.
And
that's a healthy and still positive perspective on it. You know what I mean? It's an appreciative and hopeful perspective.
It's just hard not to rubber band like even harsher back when it's just getting such universal praise.
Yeah.
And to go even further full circle, like again, being there at the release of Dark Souls when it was like reasonable critical praise, not popular at all, to see it all kind of like slingshot into the future with Elden Ring getting so much public attention and so much critical praise to the point where like people that might not like, that are probably not going to like this kind of game are like getting into it or trying to and getting mad about it.
Yep.
Because it's too hard. It's not what they expected. They were told this was going to be the greatest game of all time. There's this understandable notion that like the greatest game of all time should probably be pretty accessible. Understandably.
Sure, I could see that.
It stands to reason. I don't necessarily agree, but I can see the reasoning behind it.
Yeah.
And that's what's drawing so many people to this game.
So how many more times are you going to replay this game?
That's just something that I think time will tell.
Will you replay it immediately?
Like,
Is that even, like, mentally... I'm not mentally there. You know what I mean?
When
I don't play... I have said before, I don't replay games very well, very often. And I definitely can't dive right back into this one with a different build.
when I want you to follow me.
Okay.
I want you to, as I am drawing with my hands in
Yep.
the air in front of Braden, these
Oh.
full circles, when I'm saying I'm coming back full circle,
Uh-huh.
it's like I'm drawing the Elden Ring, like
Oh,
all the,
yes you are.
because it's
or
like-
the little overhead. Like...
yeah, because it keeps getting bigger and like overlapping and stuff. So I'm going to come full circle again,
Okay.
because this is what I kind of mean when I'm reaching back to 2011 with Dark Souls.
Yeah.
Again. And I'm not just emphasizing it to like emphasize like my own street cred of being with Dark Souls since the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
But like it truly, Dark Souls, when it came out in 2011, was just nothing. Understood as not at all in the same way as it is now in 2022.
Mm-hmm.
It's just so, we just really can't understand what Elden Ring is going to look like in 5-10 years contextually.
Yes.
But that's
11 to keep it.
Yeah. That's what it's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Dark Souls isn't now what it was when it came out. It's something huge and bigger. Elden Ring is huge and big now, but it might shrink by like in 10, 11 years.
Right.
It might be surpassed by Breath of the Wild 2, the sequel. It might be surpassed by whatever FromSoftware is putting
That'd
out.
be cool. Go Nintendo, go. You can do it, big dog. Delay that game. Do what you gotta do. Beat Elden Ring.
Heartbreaking, but I saw it coming.
Yeah.
I predicted it.
Who didn't? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
Literally
Whatever.
before the announcement, within that same week, I was telling a friend, we were talking about Elden Ring.
Uh-huh.
And just talking about video games, and I was like, yeah, every 3D Zelda game gets delayed like twice.
Yeah.
Without fail.
This is the first, right?
Maybe. It might, we'll see.
Yeah.
Wouldn't surprise me. Don't get any hopes up. Anyway, yeah, there's plenty of room for Elden Ring to be surpassed. And whatever its reputation is now within months of its release is going to be different 5-10 years. And what its legacy is going to be isn't going to be defined by what it is right now. It's going to be what it represents in those 5-10 years. What it is still better than, and what it has been surpassed by.
Right.
In whatever avenue that means.
Mm-hmm.
Dark Souls spawned the Souls-like subgenre, the quote-unquote, like, the Souls-like.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Skyrim was similar, like, open world games were just like Skyrim with guns, kind of thing. There are these games that come along, and like Breath of the Wild has imitators now, but only years after the fact, because Breath of the Wild is not the kind of game that you can crank out overnight.
Right.
It takes years of development. And so I think Elden Ring is a new benchmark for something, but I think it's going to take years to analyze and critique about what made it work and what made it not,
Mm-hmm.
and for people to understand it and get it, and then furthermore, implement it. It's going to be a long time.
So how much further can this Dark Souls model go, though? It's deep, but I mean, how much has it changed in 4 games according to this branch of your FromSoftware lineage? You know what I mean? How
Not
can
much.
Can it still be punishingly difficult? Will they change the stats? You know what I mean? And that's not your job. There are people, no offense to you and none to me, but much smarter than us, paid to come up with how these things work.
Certainly.
But, what can they do?
Time is ever marching forward, and there will probably come a day where even I am tired of like alright, vitality, strength, dexterity, intelligence, faith. Okay, here's these stats, here's these spells, let's do it.
I've been using Ember with Charmander for 25 years, so
Sure.
I don't know.
Exactly. But, again, I think they can still go for openness and variety, building on the variety,
Mm-hmm.
like expanding rather than tightening.
Yeah.
Tightening being Bloodborne into Sekiro,
Uh-huh.
expanding being Dark Souls into Elden Ring.
Mm-hmm.
I think they can further expand the variety at hand.
Okay.
The sheer
Healthily?
versatility at play, while still eliminating the needless breadth of the game. The repeated mini-bosses, enemies,
Useless items,
contextless enemies and bosses, like, that just, like, almost have no place in the lore. They're just kind of there.
Yeah.
You know? I think those are not incompatible ideals. Is keeping this, like, sense of freedom and variety and maybe even, like, size and keeping the breadth, but just, like, I don't know, packing it more to the gills with variable content, which is obviously more manpower, more work, more time, more of an unreasonable demand.
Yeah, it's give us more game, kind of.
But also
that's what the future should hold.
But we'd also be confusing that we'd also be complaining that that's too much, because this is already too much. There's already too much game here. We haven't finished it yet, and I'm already complaining about how the half that I've played is already. I mean, it's because it's repeating too much, and I'm already going through the phases. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just.
Can you re-roll your stats in old Dark Souls games?
I think maybe in, like, 1 or 2 of them.
That is a valuable aspect. First off, the Renown fight is dope. I know I'm not the first to say it, won't be the last. Fun fight.
I've seen more complaints about that one than compliments, but I'm with you. I like it a lot.
Dude, it was so cool. Her summons, the moon. Oh my gosh,
Sick.
I loved it.
It's sick.
And her ability to re-roll your stats anytime you want, as long as you have... What does she take, a larval tier?
Yeah. For the lay person.
Yes.
For the person that is listening to this that doesn't play Elden Ring, there is a potentially main boss that you can fight. You need to collect a certain amount of great runes to progress in the game. And there are a handful of main bosses in the game that you can tackle in any order, in any quantity that you want to obtain these great runes. One of these bosses that you can defeat, you don't have to defeat. You might miss, you might not. When you defeat her, she grants you the ability to reallocate all of your stats and attributes that you have allocated from leveling up. The leveling up working the same as in Dark Souls. You defeat enemies and bosses and collect currency. In this game, it's runes. It's not souls, it's runes. And you expend that currency to level your character up, increasing your individual attributes, strength, dexterity, intelligence, vitality, endurance, etc., point by point, spending these runes, this currency. But beating this particular boss unlocks the ability to reallocate all of the attributes that you have administered already. So you can effectively play different character builds within the same playthrough.
And just to give you a number visual here, I started the game at level 10 with certain points already allocated to certain stats, and that's fine. I am now about a level 125, which means that's 115 points that I have allocated to various stats.
Strength,
mostly
vitality.
To strength, dexterity, and faith. At this point, I'm realizing I've wasted some dexterity points. And
based on what you are...
You know what? Never mind. I want to cast some spells. I can ditch my strength. I can ditch my dexterity. I can go full arcane and intelligence. And I can be casting the most powerful spells with at the cost of 1 larval tier. That's the item that she'll take to reroll your stats. And that's literally game changing, if you want it to be. You know, I haven't taken such a drastic change, but to the point that you are making, if I wanted to, I have the items to make it worthwhile.
That is part of the freedom and the variety that inherently makes Elden Ring so special, And you are absolutely right that that is a crucial element to it being so free, and to everything I've said about like the repetitive dungeons being into repetitive boss fights into an item or a spell or something that isn't useful to me.
Mm-hmm.
It can be if I want it to.
Right.
I can do this this very arcane process to essentially rebuild my character in the same playthrough if I want to.
Yeah.
Now,
whether that's great game design or not,
right, exactly.
Freaking no, probably not it.
Once more, it's worth acknowledging that this arguably, possibly, like, essential design choice, this essential mechanic, that feels like it should come hand in hand. It should come in tandem with all this freedom and variety at play.
Sure.
It should be more accessible. This ability is locked behind all the way like you have to clear an entire level. You have to find your way into the level, clear this entire level, fight this particular boss that may be too hard for you at some point. And after you clear this one boss that you don't have to beat necessarily, you still need a limited consumable item in order to make this happen.
Yeah. I can certainly imagine it being more fluid. Imagine that being an option at a site of grace or upon a level up. You know what I mean? You can...
But it's just freedomception. Because not only do you have the freedom to reallocate your attributes and your stats, but part of the freedom is that you're free to miss it if you want. Or if you happen to. Everybody's experience with the game is different.
You want to know something funny?
Yes.
I did. I didn't go to the academy until after the capital. I was talking to some people at work, which is also fun about the game. It's very culturally relevant. Lots of people are playing it. It's fun. It's fun to chat, man.
Nothing like playing a FromSoftware game right when it launches.
Yes.
That's part of the magic.
Lots of people at work are playing it, which is pretty cool. But somebody mentioned re-rolling their stats, and I was like, "Where do you do that?" And they're like, "Oh, at the academy." And I said, "Where is that?" And they were like, "It's here." And I said, "I think I passed that." And they said, "Sounds like you did." I sure did. And yeah, I don't know, just fascinating stuff.
Like that whole. Just the possibility of missing something, that's like kind of the other side of the coin of all of it is like, yeah, within a self-contained playthrough, so much of it is missable. But part of the experience of the FromSoftware game is the community. Is filling out the wiki at launch before anything. It's the water cooler talk. It's the... it's a callback to that 80s retro era of games where in the original Legend of Zelda, did you know that you could set this one bush on fire?
People write the cheat codes in the Blockbuster rental case, so you can use them too.
There's this extremely draconian process that you can do to complete this random quest line from this one NPC that you probably would have missed because they're literally invisible.
I hated that one.
Yeah, but I mean, like, it's there. And, the designers intended it that way. For it to be that missable, that obtuse, that arcane,
Have you heard about the, I haven't killed the wall yet.
Have
you heard about the wall
the 99, hits?
Yeah. In Volcano Manor or something? Yeah. What do you think about that? That a remnant of past test or whatever?
I think it's an accident.
You do think it's an accident?
Yeah.
Okay.
I do.
Does it not lead anywhere?
It leads to somewhere that you can already go.
Oh, okay.
It's like...
Okay, then alright.
It just loops back to a place that's not... Yeah, it's...
Interesting.
It's not an illusory wall.
Yeah.
But it makes you wonder.
Uh-huh.
It's just one of those things that, it's one of those... If this was 20 years ago and we were not in the age of, it instantly being shared to Twitter... That would be
smacking every wall in the friggin' game.
Ad nauseum. That would be...
And people are.
Sonic and Tails are in Super Smash Bros. Melee levels, That's exactly what that would be.
Yeah.
Is there's this hidden wall that if you hit it 100 times, you get access to a secret area.
Yeah.
And who the hell knows?
Yeah.
Maybe there is one.
I mean, yeah, it's weird. The Sleeping Dragon, did you take advantage of that?
No, I learned about it
some
too
pretty
late.
normie Elden Ring
It is
references, but
at this point, it wouldn't even be enough runes to get me a level up.
Yeah.
I found out about it too late, but he's still out there.
Yeah.
The guy that's... Did I tell you about the guy that's stealing your runes in Stormvale?
Yes, I know what you mean, because every time you die there, you lose runes. I thought that was a mechanic for a while, and then it stopped happening, and then I read about it. Nifty.
Is it?
I don't know. I never met the guy, did you?
Yeah. Do you know who it is?
No.
It's the little feller at the beginning who tells you, hey, don't go in the gate. Go in the side entrance. Don't worry about it. If you...
And climb up those rocks around the side?
And if you kill him, guess what happens?
You don't lose runes?
You get every rune that you missed.
No.
Back. He drops them. Yes.
At any point, he's just a bank, essentially?
For the entirety of Stormvale, yes, you are losing about 30% of your runes every time you die, every time you drop them.
Goodness.
For every time you died. And when you kill him, he drops every single penny. And he'll be like, why? Why are you doing this? Why are you killing me? And that's it. There's no consequence.
And he knows why you're killing him.
Exactly, yeah.
He knows.
And you get his bell bearing too, so you can still use his shop.
Heck yeah.
So, there's that. There's a pro tip for all you Elden Ring players. Stormvale, that guy is not your friend. Oh my goodness.
But dude, some of the NPC quests are weird though.
Yes.
Like the blind, she's blind, right? The blind girl?
Which one?
Under the bridge.
Under the bridge? Oh, the one you have to bring a letter
to her dad?
Yeah.
And then I got it to her dad and he was like, cool, thanks. And then I went back to her and she was dead.
Yeah.
But there's ways to make her not dead.
Yeah,
Apparently.
don't do the quest. That's something Bloodborne taught you.
No, like, I don't know. Like, I genuinely did something. Okay, admittedly, this was during the first week of release, and so perhaps people's instructions or knowledge of, the quest line was blurred, but, like, apparently I did something out of order, thus she died. Instead of, like, at least me being able to deliver a letter back to her or something. I don't know. And that's not the only time it's happened. Celavis died. Right. Of some misbegotten cause that I think I just timed out a quest. You know what I mean? I think I didn't do something in time, and I finished another area, and...
I'm curious about that one, because
mean?
As for the blind girl who dies after bringing the letter, that's something I'd also heard of as well, is that, like, that's just the quest line.
Okay.
But again, maybe you're right, it was, like, early on, and, like, people hadn't figured out how to, like, what other steps could have been.
Mm-hmm.
For Celavis, you missed something. Did you follow it over the comet? Yeah, you did, because you did Donkron.
Did you do Varus's quest? He's the guy at the first who makes fun of you for being maidenless.
Oh, no.
He gives you an item that teleports you.
No.
And you fight Moog.
Well, maybe you should talk to Ronnie, bitch. Go to the Lake of Rot. How do I find Varus? He's probably already dead.
That's what I mean, dude. NPCs just died. You probably missed it and he's dead now and you can't do it.
Yeah, that's awesome game design.
I'm not saying it is. Just...
Me neither.
And I'm not going to replay the game. The mystery is wearing off. It's awesome. I'm loving it. I don't know. The bosses are pretty cool, even though they're hard and, like, potentially unfair at times. I know it's also a very normie meme, but, like, Margit was hard as a first boss.
But on purpose.
Yeah, totally. But, I mean, like... But, yes, that was steep. That was a steep cliff. All of a sudden.
To teach you that...
Get good?
No. Kind of. The opposite. Kind of.
Figure something else out. Come back.
Come back.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to rush straight into the main first boss.
Mm-hmm.
If he's kicking your ass, try something else.
Yep, look at all this
There's
stuff.
so much other... You can beat Lanedale before fighting Margit if you want.
Right.
You know what I mean? No, really.
Margit was...
How'd you get to Lake of Rat? How did you get down there without the gargoyles?
You can reach it from Ainsel River, Maine by heading southwest from the Noxtella Waterfall Basin site of Grace. What the heck? Dude, I haven't fought it. That guy?
Yeah.
I haven't fought him, dude.
He's on the Lake of Rat. So that's... So what you're saying is it's completely not at all what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You didn't go another way. You just haven't been to where I'm talking about.
If we turned on my game, the Lake of Rot map is unlocked. I just have somehow... I have not seen Astel as a boss. Is that a dragonfly?
Well, kinda. No. He's a weird thing. I don't know how to describe it.
I haven't seen him.
He's got...
This game's big.
Yes. Like, okay. Here's the biggest circle. Full circle. Elden Ring. This is the Elden Ring. I found it.
This is the final Elden Ring?
Is it
the one to rule them all?
Yes, the one Elden Ring to rule. Do you see all those messages that are like Elden Ring, like at Volcano Manor, that are like Elden Ring into fire?
Oh no, I didn't, but I
Those
like
are
that.
Good. Yeah. So fullest circle, Elden Ring. Is it too big? Too big to be fun? Too big to be...
Absolutely not. I'm having a ball.
Too big to be satisfying?
Perhaps by the end. And if I were to play it again, yes. I haven't said it this episode in exactly these words, but Sekiro Shadows Die Twice is in, I'm pretty sure, my top 10 favorite games of all time. It's been a long time since I've actually crafted such a list, and it would be very difficult, obviously. But I think it's a masterpiece of game design and progression, that old school philosophy that we kind of were leaning on earlier in the discussion about just repetition until you have it down, kind of. But in the most tight-knit, won't say perfect, but with really intentionally focused combat. There is only your sword, which I've never used a sorcery build, really. I've used sorcery and incantations in Elden Ring, but I've never used a full build. And I might be wrong here, but I think lots of people would say, sword and board feels the most natural it's what they start you out with. It's the most straightforward. And something about that with Sekiro is so fine-tuned. I mean, you don't have a shield, but the parrying system, the combat is so refined to your katana, and
it's rhythmic, even.
It is. And I would say, shoot, any of these bosses are turn into a rhythm game, dude. You know what I mean? But
not an Elden Ring.
I mean,
I don't know, maybe I'm wrong.
I don't know. Help me find the words.
It's just tight. It's just streamlined. It's focused.
But both,
except for the monkey part. The folding screen monkey part.
Yeah, that was dumb.
That is the only
that was
dumb.
Real dumb.
And some of the snake stealth parts. But other than those...
Snake stealth. Yeah. The snake was cool. The
snake is cool.
The stealth was dumb.
Yes. And those are...
permissible. I would say permissible.
Yes!
In pursuit of a more full experience.
They're...
fulfilling experience.
They're admirable. But, I don't know. If we're looking at Elden Ring as the whole package, we gotta be honest about Sekiro too.
Mm-hmm.
We are fortunate that Sekiro comes with a bonus entire video game in addition to its well-crafted boss fights.
Yes. Well, and maybe what I'm trying to say is Sekiro feels like a final distillation in my mind of what this genre needs to be. You know what I mean? Not needs to be, there need to be separate branches, perhaps, as is finally forming. Elden Ring can be over here, and Sekiro can be over here. But Sekiro did the combat better in a more satisfying, rewarding, and artistically beautiful way. There's full vision throughout Sekiro. And I think that's something that Elden Ring, as you have well verbalized, is missing from the minute-to-minute gameplay. Whereas Sekiro, just minute-to-minute,
It's focused.
it's there.
It has exactly what it's trying to be.
Mm-hmm.
Except for the monkey screen.
Monkey screen and Scary Snake. Where are you at? What are you thinking?
I agree. I think I'm going to continue to agree. But like we've said, I think it's just going to take time.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever FromSoftware has next up their sleeve, I'm going to dine upon heartily. Whatever it looks like. It might be another Armored Core, who's to say?
Right.
And if that is the case, then I might not dine on it so peckishly. But I will be waiting. And I don't know, man. I don't love Elden Ring. I like it a lot. I like it a lot, and I'm in it. And there are moments that I love, but I've just not fallen in love with it.
Yeah.
Or maybe I've just fallen out of love since I haven't played it in a little bit.
Maybe
I just there are moments that hook me.
That's a good final way to summarize, I think. Yeah, it's got some brilliant moments to it, but yeah, not every minute is as captivating as it could be.
Yeah, and maybe we'll make a part 3. Maybe we'll both finish Elden Ring and we'll eat our words and everything will be great.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Or maybe in 5 years we'll...
Breath of the Wild 2 will be out and we'll be like, remember that Elden Ring
what
thing?
A joke. Came out before Skyrim, and Skyrim ran the world.
Came out before Elder Scrolls 6.
Yeah.
Can you believe that? Imagine a world.
Ugh. With Elder Scrolls 6?
Elden Scrolls 6. The most important thing, actually, is going to be, and something I failed to mention in the Dark Souls discussion as well as this one, is that historically, at least thus far, track record, the best part of each FromSoftware game has been the post-release downloadable content. Dark Souls 1, it is Ulasil. Dark Souls 2, it's the 3 crowns. Best parts of the game. Dark Souls 3, Ashes of Ariandel, and the Ringed City. Really, brought the whole trilogy to a close. Bloodborne, the Hunter's Nightmare, the Old Hunters. Hardest bosses, best content in the game. It made me want to finish it.
Yeah.
Sekiro didn't really get DLC. But Elden Ring, probably. And it's going to add sailing and flying and
mounts.
And more mounts. A T-Rex. Raids. And a Battle Royale mode, I think.
That'd be cool. Team Slayer.
Team Slayer. That is something I mentioned outside of recording. Traversal. Torrent.
Yeah, why don't you don't like Torrent?
I think it contributes to the breadth problem. I think it's not the only measurement of value, but what I think, this is a weird vacuum competition to put it in, but comparing Elden Ring to something like Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild changes, in its open world, changes the way you look at terrain.
Sure. Yeah.
With your paraglider and being able to climb any surface. If you're on any sort of elevation, you can look out on the horizon and be like, I can probably make it to that.
Right.
And sail to it, glide to it. You can glide to just about any point you can see, but also every point, whatever you're gliding over is probably hiding something too.
Sure.
Possibly. All same, and my own personal reasons acknowledged for open world fatigue. I got fatigued with Breath of the Wild 2. Breath of the Wild is repetitive and redundant in its own ways, but I'm just saying, as far as being a standout open world game, traversal is very important, and I think there could have been more innovative ways for Elden Ring to be more impactful in the traversal regard rather than just having a horse that double jumps.
Yeah. When you put it like that.
It's revolutionary for Dark Souls that you can jump at all.
Right, yeah.
Which we haven't really talked about.
Uh-huh.
You can jump. That's cool. Anyway.
It helps.
It helps.
Torrent combat is pretty atrocious. It's gotten me through some tough boss fights, I'll tell you that, but...
This is what's going to come with time. It's going to be a great debate. It's going to have to be Paper Mario versus Thousand Year Door kind of thing. Like, I've heard some people praise the mounted combat as some of the best mounted combat ever. Granted, probably.
Yeah, yes, I was about to say, unfortunately, that's still probably true.
But it's not great.
It's not great in the context of the challenge that Dark Souls is, like, trying to provide.
Exactly.
The combat is so limited, you only have, like, 2 moves.
It's wonky. But it can be improved.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Whatever's next.
What's funny is, we're still enjoying Elden Ring as we go.
Still enjoying it. Still loving parts of it. It's just so long, so big. As much as I enjoy it, I don't want to be playing it forever. A game might be too big.
Mm-hmm.
But I have almost no doubt that by the time I roll the credits, I will be satisfied with what I played. Maybe I won't want to replay it immediately.
Sure.
Maybe not ever. Maybe I'll want to hop back into Sekiro like I've already been wanting to do.
Right, me too.
Because I miss it. But it's a big deal, rightfully so, for many reasons, and also wrongfully so, for fewer reasons.
And it's going to set some benchmarks along the way, whether we like it or not. Lots of games are going to be copying it, so...
Exactly.
Buckle up. Breath of the Wild 2.0 type thing.
The trend is only going to start because it's being so lucrative right now. Because it's a smash success. It's not because it's good, it's because it's making money.
That's true.
It's because it's successful.
I can't wait to see the Immortals Phoenix Rising copy of Elden Ring. You know what I mean? Like, whatever that kind of, like, weird Ubisoft knockoff thing is going to look like.
Have you seen all the reaction from, like, the Ubisoft developers about Elden Ring?
No.
They hate it.
Why?
They're like, this is bad game design. Because it's, like, too hard and too open and isn't guiding you where to go.
Oh my god.
Like, Ubisoft games do.
Like, for real? Like, that, like, actual Ubisoft developers are like...
I mean,
this is a dumb game.
I can't speak to it that it's, like, numerous, or that it's, like...
But it has been said.
Yes.
That's incredible.
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah. That's pretty good.
But hey, man, I'm just looking forward to the future. I feel like it's the size of the game necessitates the time to comb through it all and analyze it from a bird's eye view.
Sure.
I think it's just kind of
taking everything it has to offer.
Yeah, is that it? Are we?
Well, it's pretty tragic that we're both tired, but also that we don't have 5 more hours to talk about it. Like,
but ain't that just the Elden Ring experience?
Oh, if only we had 5 more hours.
We're already tired of it, but there's just so much more to do with it. You know what I mean?
That's right.
And you just got to see it through to the end.
Mm-hmm. No, except we're cutting this off.
Yes. This is not the last we'll hear of Elden Ring.
No. Probably not on the podcast either.
Probably not. Breath of the Wild 2 rolls around. Man, I miss Elden Ring. Anyway.
Do you think this will be the game of the year? I can't imagine anything topping it.
When I mentioned that conversation, I was talking to my friend where I predicted that Breath of the Wild 2 was going to be delayed. Mm-hmm. I think that's what we were talking about. Is that? Oh yeah. I think Elden Ring will be game of the year. I can't imagine anything else coming out this year to even compete with it.
Sure.
If anything is, it's going to be announced at E3 and come out holiday this year.
Yeah.
God of War Ragnarok, maybe.
Is that this year?
Maybe. I don't know.
Okay,
I think it might be, and I can't think of anything else that would
compete.
Yeah, be a competition. My only guess was Breath of the Wild 2, but that's obviously not going to be this year anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So I really don't know. I doubt it. I don't think Horizon Forbidden West.
Oh, poor guy.
Do you remember when Horizon
Dawn?
Zero Dawn came out?
It was right before something dumb too. Was it like Dark Souls 3 or something?
It was Breath of the Wild.
That's right. Oh, poor guys.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody.
That's right. Nintendo wins again.
Yes, sir.
All right, we're back to Nintendo.
We'll be back to Elden Ring 2 weeks after the release of Horizon Event Storm.
Next edition.
Next edition. Thank you for sticking with us through these several hours of FromSoftware goodness, and thank you for tuning into the show. Please subscribe to us or follow us on whatever platform you are listening to this episode on. Give us a follow on Instagram. Give us a like on Facebook.
We're really fun over there. You'll enjoy it, I promise.
It's true. Braden promises.
Thank you again, guys. We really appreciate it. And we will talk to you soon. My name is Braden.
And I am Connor.
We will see you next time.
Love you.